buy cars from credit unions and pick them up at dealerships. What's up, y'all? It's Stephen Motivate, and I've got to talk to you about Turo. So I know many people know me as the Turo guy. Yes, I'm the guy that financed several cars. I think at one point it was 22, maybe 23 cars on Turo. Started here in the Charlotte market and really ran it up. And initially it worked out pretty great. But after a few months, especially when the slow season came, things started to get a little difficult. And, you know, there's a lot that I've learned from being in Turo. Now, I'm still a Turo host, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. But for anyone that's new and interested in getting into Turo as a side income or a side hustle, there's many things I've learned. And hopefully, you can learn from some of the things that I've learned from, so you could really maximize the opportunity and do it right. And so I've got 52 tips that I'm going to give to you in this series of Turo tips. And I hope that you take these, pay attention to them, and let it inform you as to what you should do as it relates to Turo. The time is finally here, folks. Academy.stephenmotivate.com. If you want to learn more about how I generated 6 figures in 6 months while using car sharing, head over to academy.stephenmotivate.com. Use the discount code WealthyPod. Do yourself a favor. Learn how to do car sharing the right way. Learn how to make it profitable, tax advantages, how to create another stream of income for yourself. All right, do yourself a favor. I'll see you there. So, number one tip for me is one of the best things I learned in this process of getting into the car sharing business. A lot of people call it the car rental business, but I don't think that's quite true. Major car rental companies have huge, they have huge funding. They've got, market share out of this world. They've got loyal customers. They have a lot going for them in general. So the car sharing market is a bit different, right? It is for folks that aren't using their cars as often. And, instead of those cars going unused, maybe you use them or allow someone else to use them and make a little revenue, hopefully some profit as well from doing that. So that's the car sharing business, and Turo is probably the most well-known group out there now, and a lot of folks still don't know about it. But Turo is the most well-known for being a car sharing platform to help folks actually share cars with others. And in getting into this business, one of the number one things that I learned was that, and this is going to surprise you, but never buy a car from a dealership. What do you mean? Well, where else would you buy a car? Well, what I like to tell folks is that you buy a car from a bank. So even if you never actually get into Turo or, start car sharing or use this as a side hustle, at bare minimum, the next car you purchase, I would not do it at a dealership. I would do it at a bank, and not just any bank. I'd do it at a local credit union. Why? Because what I've found through this process is that local credit unions typically have the best interest rates. They give you the best terms, and you don't have to haggle with them on, tire packages or paint packages or all the other packages that dealers want to sell to you as a part of you purchasing the car. So my thought is, tip number one, don't buy a car from a dealership. Go to directly to a local credit union and talk with them about buying a car. They'll let you know what their rates are, and they'll tell you to go pick out the car. You go get the buyer's order for the car, and you take that buyer's order to that local credit union or bank. And with that, many times now you've become a customer or client of that bank or that credit union, and they want to give you other products, especially if you have outstanding credit. That they're likely going to say, hey, we've got this credit card, and if you actually sign up for this credit card, you actually get some points reduced off of your interest rate on your auto loan. We can actually finance your home mortgage, things like that. So pretty eye-opening thing, right? Everyone's default is to go to the dealership, buy a car, sit down, let them shoot your credit to, all the banks that they work with, or the dealership financing, and then you get the car, but you've got like all these inquiries on your credit report from trying to get a car. So for me, going to the dealership to actually finance the car is not the place. And so I think it's catchy just to say, hey, never buy a car from a dealership. Buy your cars from your local bank. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, DM me, message me, we can talk about it more. But that's tip number one. So what does that mean? Buy cars from credit unions and pick them up at dealerships. Buy cars from credit unions and pick them up at dealerships. So connect with your local credit union. This is really tip number two, to really, one, establish a relationship with them even before you're ready to purchase a car. Just go in there, open up an account. Your credit union is just going to serve you a lot, typically much better than the big bank. They may even actually know who you are. The person working there may not get switched out every 3 months. So there is something important about knowing your banker. I'll say it like that, knowing your banker, especially when you're at a credit union. So tip number two is know your banker. This is good not just for Turo or doing side hustle businesses. This is good just for life in general. So consider that. Consider knowing your banker. Consider establishing that relationship. Maybe all your money is at the big banks, and there are some conveniences at big banks, but there's probably an opportunity for you to move some of that money over to one of your local credit unions. So know your banker and connect and establish a relationship with your credit unions. Tip number three is, this is the tip that folks don't talk about enough, right? Turo is not a business that is profitable year round automatically. If you get into Turo during the summer is typically in most places the high season. You'll see more you'll see more car sharers or renters. You'll see more demand for folks needing to get a vehicle to go on family vacations. A lot of folks go on family vacations over the summer. Kids are out of school. The schedule's just easier. So you find more activity, right, during the summer months. And I think it's mostly driven by families, right? And then on top of that, you still have all the regular activity, business trips. Sometimes people don't want to take a business trip, in the middle of the winter or the holidays. So you'll find folks coming down to check on their businesses or doing things for their job, So you have that layered on top. Plus you have certain holidays where folks are all getting together for the holidays. Memorial Day is a big get-together holiday. July 4th is a big holiday. Labor Day, a big holiday. And so you have these holidays that really drive business during the summer. So it makes sense, right? That's not completely shocking. But here's the thing. During those times, if you're new to Turo and you become a host during that time, you're going to see a nice amount of demand for your product, your vehicles. But in several areas and localities, when the demand starts to drop, is for me, my experience has been right after Halloween, basically. You'll start to see demand drop into November, December. Now, certain markets are different. There are some markets that do really well during the holidays because there's people going back. But I'm in the South, and there's been a lot of migration from the North to the South recently. Population increasing a lot. So my theory is that folks have started to move back, or they start not move back. Folks start to actually travel back for the holidays to see parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and kind of get the family together. So in my market in particular, the winter is very slow, so slow where the actual cost of owning the cars or financing the cars is difficult to keep up with. Actually, during those slow months, you're losing money. So you're making money during the summer and losing money during the winter. And so how do you kind of offset that and deal with that? Well, here is the biggest tip I can give you is, and I said this, I've been on a couple discussions and podcasts talking about this, but buy inexpensive cars. If you're going to be a Turo host, you need to buy inexpensive cars. And you might say, well, I don't want to own an inexpensive car. I want to own something fancy and nice, which is one of the perks, right? But if you really want to run this as a business, you have to really put your preferences aside and really research your market. And I can almost guarantee you that the product in your market that likely is going to stay booked, reserved, in use the most is likely going to be an inexpensive car. So when I say inexpensive car, I mean a Mitsubishi Mirage, a Nissan Versa, a Fiat, a Ford Focus. So these type economy cars are vehicles that typically, if you did finance them, you can price them at a good level or a good amount. Good amount being between $38 to $45 a day. And if all in on that vehicle, you're paying $300 a month, let's say it's rented for, 30 days. Now, let's say you're doing 40 times 30, you're somewhere around $1,200 a month in revenue and $300 a month in guaranteed expenses. Now, there are some variable expenses that can come up because when a car is getting used that much, right, the tires might get worn down a little bit quicker. The brakes might get worn down quicker. You might have a mechanical issue. You might find someone that gets into a fender bender. So you've got a lot of other things that can happen. And folks don't talk about that either. But if you want to run a business that has the highest probability of actually profiting, then you really need to look at those inexpensive cars, because I've been doing this for a couple years now, and I can tell you that most folks that are just doing Turo, they're not making money. They're not profiting at high levels. There's another reason for doing it, and I'll probably get into that later. But if you want to profit, if you're a new Turo host, you need to start with an inexpensive car. Inexpensive cars, it will be, will have the ability to generate large profits. Again, several other things you have to think through and work out, but the inexpensive cars and are really a good place to start. Now, you have to also look at your market. And so Turo has a calculator that you can use, and I'll link that below, that you can really dig into your market and understand exactly what Turo says will work in your market. But more than that, you have to do your own market research. You have to really get into the app. Before I started, I went and looked at the top hosts in my area. And I started to see, okay, what cars do they have? Okay, how many trips have they been on? Okay, when was their first review of a trip? So how long have they been running on the platform, and what sort of reviews do they have? And I noticed way back then that one of the top hosts in this area had inexpensive vehicles. And so at that time, my thought was, okay, let me introduce luxury vehicles because I don't see that space in the market. And it worked for me. It worked very well. However, as more folks became familiar with the platform, uh, folks have started to follow me. So much so as I've seen folks actually get the exact same vehicle that I've got, or multiple vehicles that I have. They will literally seek out to try to get the exact same vehicles because they can look at my profile and say, oh, this guy has trips. This guy has a lot of activity. And so if there's already demand for that type of vehicle, why not get that type of vehicle to actually serve folks with? So I think the point being is that you need to do your research. You need to do your research for your market, and you need to really dive in and really look through what's happening with the top performers in your market, and really get a feel for what's out there. There's a great way to filter within the app where you can actually go and say, wow, this is how many cars are available in this area, and you can kind of see how big or how little your market is. There's some markets in the country right now that still only have 1 or 2 vehicles because either they're not heavy traffic places, or folks still don't know about it. There's a number of reasons, but there's still opportunity out there. But no matter where you are in the country, based on my experience, my third tip to you is that you need to focus on inexpensive cars, not expensive ones. And I'll get into more of that later. But those are my 3 tips. Look, I hope that helps you. If it does, I'm going to continue to put this content on my channel about Turo because I consider it one of the money maneuvers. And there is a way to do it right. There is a way to do it right. And if you're interested in learning exactly how I've done it, I do offer a course down below where you can tap into that. But hey, if you're not interested in that, then continue to subscribe to this channel because I'm going to give 90% of the information away for free, just so you can know exactly how to use this money maneuver to your advantage. And I'm doing this now because now I feel like I have the experience. I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and now I feel good about the experience I have and the ability to actually give people good knowledge, good game as to what they can do in this space. Some folks are, get so excited about sharing information that they haven't really been in it long enough to really know if the information they're sharing is going to be beneficial or harmful for folks. So, my hope is that I've been in it long enough to have enough experience to actually give you some good guidance, something you can benefit from, whether you actually participate as a host on Turo or as a guest on Turo, or if you're just an entrepreneur and you want to understand the opportunity in general and how you think it's going to play out, and some of the key nuggets like we spoke about earlier that you can learn from being in this, participating in the economy, in this supply and demand cycle in this way. So look, I hope that helps you the way that information has helped me over time. And above all, I want you to stay motivated. This is your boy, Stephen Motivate. Peace.